Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks, Rob. Yeah, great to meet you. How's your
Good
day
to
going?
meet you. Good to meet you too. It's going well. I'm having a kind of a day off from rehearsals today. We've
Yeah,
just
yeah.
been banging away like metal maniacs for the last few days in Birmingham, and it's always a thrill. Well, it's always a kind of a it's a thrill. It's a thrill mixed with oh my God, you know, because here we are, 19 studio albums later, getting ready to kick off the release of the album with a tour of the home country. It's been a long time. Don't ask me why it's taken forever to get this correct, but I had my usual rant and said we're starting this Invincible Shield
Yeah.
world tour in the UK, and it's been made to happen. So it's a lot of that going on at the moment,
I mean,
but it's great. It's wonderful.
I loved Firepower, like I really did, and I've been looking forward to the new album. I've been trying to avoid the singles because I want to hear it all in one block. So I'm looking forward to that next week.
You know, Chris, that really makes me feel good because you're like me in that respect. I'm a purist when it comes to listening to bands that have really built their legacy on albums.
Yeah,
You know, some people in the music business are famous for singles or whatever other way that they might present their work. But
yeah,
Priest, going all the way back to rock and roller, 1974, 50 years ago this year, we presented ourselves uh, in what we felt was the truest representation of the band at that particular moment. And that was Judas Priest in 1974 with the music for Rock and Roller. And here we are 50 years later with the exact kind of uh, perception
yeah.
and presentation that we've always carried.
Yeah.
Invincible Shield. Yeah.
Nice, amazing. So I'm going to move on because we've got loads of questions to get through. I'm aware that
Okay.
we've got
Okay. We've got
45 minutes.
45 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So these questions are all from Priest fans and Guardian readers. So none of these
Okay.
questions come from my brain. So there's a good mix of them. So I mean, if you're welcome to be as concise or expand on things as much as you want. Just really, I'm just going to take your steer on that. The very first question is, I've not pulled the names through of who did these, but they're all like usernames, so there's nothing really interest in that respect. But so the first question is, I'd appreciate your thoughts on the question of what the first heavy metal record was. Was it the Kinks, You Really Got Me, Steppenwolf's Born to Be Wild, Black Sabbath, or something else?
Oh, got to be Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath.
Yeah,
I love those two references to the Kinks and Steppenwolf, but by definition, that's not really metal. It's a little bit of a litmus test to what would come. Because when you think about when Van Halen did a cover of "You Really Got Me" by the Kinks,
yeah,
and I've been a Kinks fan all my life. When I heard that texture, I thought, oh, that just shows you um, the heavy characteristics of this song. So there is that, but most definitely in terms of riffage, I've always defined metal to the greatest extent with the bass instrumentation representation of the music, and it's a big, heavy, meaty, full-on pork chop Black Sabbath heavy metal riff. You know,
I think it was
um,
food as well,
pork,
wasn't it? It's very
pork
scary.
chop is pork chop is a terrible reference. Strike that. Let's call it a sledgehammer or a hammer, a West Midlands steam hammer. That's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
Tony was doing. So I would say, definitely Black Sabbath is the one for me. Yeah.
So yeah, and a bit more on the genre side of it. Next question is, how did you feel about punk at the time? And is it weird that as time has gone on, punk and metal have become quite interchangeable as far as their fan base goes? I'm not quite sure I'd agree with that, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. Of course, it was exciting for Priest to be around as the punk movement exploded from London. And there were some great bands that came out of that. Era. I remember seeing the Sex Pistols playing live at a club in Wolverhampton. and I thought they had some heavy metal vibes to them when they were playing live. You know, the attitude and some of the riffs that. Oh, help me, the guitar player, Steve. I know Steve quite well. He lives in Los Angeles now, as you know, and he's got his radio show and that. We've talked about that. And the fact that Roy Thomas Baker produced Nevermind the Bollocks, he gave it quite, you know, gave it some bottom end in that representation. But so to be around while that was happening, I love anything like this. You know, I welcome it. I embrace it because it's exciting, and that's what the true essence of rock and roll should be all about. You know, it should be about new things and different adventures in music. The unfortunate thing that happened in the music industry was that suddenly all of the labels and the media just focused exclusively on the Sex Pistols, the Damned, the Clash, the Stranglers, you know, all great bands. And metal was kind of pushed out of the picture. And so for a little bit of a while, there was this mantra that metal is dead. And we thought, like, that's insane. You know, you can't squash a whole definitive movement just because this has come along. And of course, that was the case. But I loved it. I embraced it. I thought it was exciting. Some of it was quite inspirational. And I think we needed that in the British music scene and industry at the time that it happened.
I think there are some new album questions later on, so we can get into that again then. But so the next question is, if you were 21 now, what current metal band would you want to join? You can't say Judas Priest.
Well, that's a pretty good question. Right now, there's a couple of British bands I quite like. One's called, is it Malevolence from Sheffield?
Yeah.
And Svalbard. It's another band I quite like. I mean, they're relatively new to, you know, this septuagenarian metalhead. So yeah, I you know, it's the same attitude, Code Orange, you know, and then I've got other mates like I'm going to say Ghost is ghost metal. No, I'll argue about that with Tobias. Behemoth, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I love trying to represent people from my own country, you know.
Yeah.
And so those couple, Malevolence and Svalbard, are really good.
Yeah. How is Glenn, and will he be making an appearance on this tour?
He's doing extraordinarily well, considering he's been living with Parkinson's now for, God, is it 15, 18 years?
Yeah.
He's just such a strong man, you know. It's like any of these challenges. A lot of it is born by the way you fight back, you know, and he fights back all the time. It's just terrible that there isn't a remedy, a cure. You know, the medication that he uses literally every day of his life now is doing remarkable things for him. But thank you for asking about him. I just love that people still understand how important a part he has in Judas Priest, because he is the other guitar player in Judas Priest. You got Richie and Glenn, you know, and his input on this album is as it has been on all of the records that we've made together.
Brilliant to hear. And obviously, you know, Aussies fighting the same battles, and I know there's no magic wand.
Yeah, I know that they keep in touch with each other.
Yeah,
and but they're two of the same. They're both cut from the same cloth in that kind of, you know, British get on with it, you know, type of thing. That's kind of simplifying it.
Yeah.
But it is that, isn't it? Just get on with it, you know. And you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful, particularly with men. And I don't mean to sound, you know, against any other, what's the word, identity.
Yeah.
But you know, this thing about blokes and your dignity. Dignity is an extremely powerful word in what it represents, you know. And depending on your generation, or does that really matter? I think men particularly have this thing about, you know, dignity. My dad was the same, and So they are really strong in that, those elements of trying to stay dignified and fighting and battling on.
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful answer, and yeah, I'm glad he's doing well. And yeah, we shall see. If you were to pick one law to break, what would it be?
Well, I could either be flippant or deadly serious.
You could be what you want. I don't imagine you'd do it, but yeah.
Oh dear. I'm just trying to think how many laws I've broken myself.
I can only apologise for you,
That's it.
not mine.
Let me come back. Let me come back to that one. Let's
Okay.
come back to that one.
Whose idea was it for Priest to work with Stock, Aitken, or Waterman, and why have the results never been released?
He points the finger at his own face. That's my gayness coming to the front. Can I say that without being cancelled? What I mean by that is that I've always embraced that part of me, because I think there are certain things that come from me in my identity that wouldn't be there if I was a straight bloke. And one of them was taking this adventure with Stock Aitken and Waterman, because I love what those guys did in pop. I love pop. I've just been listening to the new Ollie song today for Eurovision. It's brilliant, So that was just an adventure. I just threw it out. I said, guys, I've got a mad idea. They go, oh, here we go again. Let me hear about it. I told them, and that's what I love about this band. We never say no. We're always about having a go. I think that's very important in life in general. Don't just squash it. Just think about it first, and think about the possibilities and the opportunities. Have a go. If it doesn't work out, then fine. But you've got to go through the motions. Even so, that's what we did.
Yeah.
We went to Paris for a couple of days. It was extraordinary to watch how they worked, how they made music in the room. I had no ideas. We just got together in the studio. I forget who was plonking away on a guitar or a piano, and we did the stylistics, You Are Everything, which is brilliant, and a couple of other bangers that they made there and then, and we thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. And then when we came back, that's when the not the doubt, but the preservation came in, because we felt that at that time, if we'd have dropped those tracks, there would have been pushback. There would have been pushback, and we didn't want that to happen. Pete's still got him in his safe. Pete Waterman, he's got him hidden away in his safe somewhere. And I think if you really search, you can find them on the internet. But the quality that the guys put together coming through the speakers in that studio in Paris, it was brilliant. It was really, It was heavy stuff, but it had all those trademark Stock Aitken and Waterman vibes to them.
I mean, there was a lot of people that asked about that one thing as well, so I'm sure that people will be interested to hear your take on that. So yeah, thanks for that. Do you still ride a bike off stage? And if so, what have you got?
No, I don't ride a bike. Not since I had this horrible back thing years ago, and this brilliant spinal surgeon, Spencer Harlan.
About 10 years ago, was that? 10 years ago, was it?
It's got to be 10 years. It's got to be 10 years ago, yeah. But as a result of that, I just have to be very careful on how I get around. Still use the bike on stage, I miss my days driving around Phoenix when it's like 42 Celsius.
Yeah.
And you pull up at a traffic light, and you don't touch the chrome because it starts to burn you up. But I still love what the bike represents. It's an important part of Priest because of what it looks and sounds and smells and feels like. It's got all those Priest elements, and when it comes out on stage, it's just a very exciting night, a part of the night, in terms of a reference and that great song Hellbent for Leather.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of the more iconic things in metal. I totally agree with that. And what, in your opinion, are the best, the worst, and the funniest subgenres of metal?
Ooh.
I mean, I'm just trying to think of.
Yeah, I mean,
now.
there are all these different. You've got your, you had your heavy metal, then you had your speed metal, and your thrash metal, and then your new metal, then your goth metal. And then what other metals are all over the place, aren't they?
Rap metal,
Black
thrash metal.
metal, death metal. God, there's so many, aren't there? When we talk about these different genres, I can hear or I can see bands' names in my head, and to be honest, I think they've all got value. Um, I think in terms of fun, what is that? What is that one that's like? Is it Deathlock? That what's that animation? That TV animated thing with the
Was it Metalocalypse? Metalocalypse?
yeah,
Something
yeah.
like
So
that.
that's fun, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
fun. So that's the fun one. And
I mean, obviously we
well,
had Limp Bizkit, new metal, rap metal,
yeah,
and the Rage Against the Machine. It's kind of really interesting band as well, only 30 years ago.
very interesting band in terms of the way that they mixed, some those elements of hip hop really in the way that that La Rocca was performing. So let's have some Rage Against the Machine. Let's have some Metal Apocalypse.
Yeah.
That's the fun. That's the fun one. Um, and so what's the third one again? The fun one.
The best, the
The what?
worst, and the
Oh,
funnest.
the word. I don't know. What's the word? Oh no. I was going to say bad news. If you know what bad news are.
I don't actually know, I'm afraid.
Do you know what bad news is? Do me a favor. Do me a favor. At some point, just go on the YouTubes again and look and just put in bad news band,
Okay.
and you'll see Adrian. Do you remember a British TV show called The Young Ones?
I do, yeah, with Rick Mail.
Yes, and Bottom,
I
Rick
do, yeah.
and Adrian. Okay.
That's
Well, they put together this band called Bad News.
okay.
It was those guys. It was a I can't remember who the drummer was. His name was Spider, and they had another famous British comedian who played bass. No, who played.
Infield, was it?
I can't think now. I can't think now. But it's really important. This is because they are fun, and in the metal world, they're legendary because they actually played at Castle Donington. They
Right.
played. They played. There's a clip in the movie where they play there, and everybody was in that show. Oh God, what's wrong with my brain today? Absolutely fabulous. Um,
You got me intrigued now anyway, so I will have a look.
the female star from Absolutely Fabulous, she was in it. They were like a little clique. They were like a little clique of very edgy comics, British UK comics. They had their own little skits, and they used to pack clubs and stuff. But then they decided to invent this band called Bad News. But you've got to watch it, and the reason why I suggest you watch it, if you know Spinal Tap, it's the
Yes.
British version of Spinal Tap, but even funnier. It's
Okay.
absolutely hilarious. So we've got bad news for the funny one. You've got whatever, Deathlock, Metal Apocalypse, and Rage Against the Machine.
So yeah, no, that's a good answer, and I'll check that out. What was it like working with Dolly on her rock album?
It was extraordinary. I still can't believe that it's happened because when I was a kid, she was on British TV. And that woman's just a legend in the true sense of what that word means. When you
Awesome,
think
yeah.
about the thousands of songs that she sung, I don't know how many albums she's made, and then suddenly she's burning so bright right now, and she's got a remarkable story as a person. But for me to actually be singing side by side with her at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was just so surreal. I felt like I was dreaming.
Yeah.
And then when she sent me a note a few days later and said, "You've heard about this album I'm doing called Rockstar, would you consider joining me on a song?" I couldn't believe it. Just well. Anyway, so I got the song and I did it, and it turned out well enough to be included on the Rockstar album.
Who was
But
the first? Who was the first person you told then when you got asked that?
That's a
You got
good question.
you got asked
No,
by Dolly.
Thomas. I told Thomas, my other half.
Your partner, yeah.
I told Thomas.
What did he say?
Well, he just smiled. He's from Alabama, you know. He's
Yeah.
just smiles a lot. Actually, he's quite a chatty Cathy in his old. We've been together for 1,000 years, but he was as surprised and thrilled as I was. Um, and of course, what I loved about that whole thing was the way that so many people embraced it, even people in the metal world, because everybody knows who Dolly Parton is, whether you enjoy music or passing it. She's just this figurehead in the big umbrella of rock and roll. So it was a dream come true to me. And you know, occasionally I play the song, um, and I hear her voice and I hear my attempt, and it's just a blessing. It's an absolute blessing.
Fantastic. Is it true that you once worked in a cinema that specialised in erotic films?
Oh, this is amazing how stories get. You know, you get these urban legends.
Urban legends, yeah. That's part of
Urban
the rock
legend.
bar,
That's
isn't
like
it?
an urban legend. There you go. That's where I broke the law. No, free porn for every. I'm going to say free porn for everybody's free porn for everybody's. It is when it's used properly. It's important. But no, all it was a mate of mine ran a little seedy. It's so great when I think about it now. It was a little tiny seedy shop up in Stafford Street in Walsall, which I could walk to if I left my kitchen now. I could be there in 20 minutes. All those buildings have gone. But it
Yeah.
was like one of these typical little seedy shops with a boarded up window and a door that was barely hanging on. And I knew this guy that ran this place, and I used to pop in occasionally. And then one day he goes, "So, got to go on holiday. Would you mind running it for me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've got nothing else to do." At the time I was, unemployed, and so I did. And out of that, it's kind of gone into this great big thing,
Yeah. So it
But I was
wasn't a
only
cinema,
there.
it was a shop.
No, it was just like a little,
Yeah.
tiny little shop, And what was fun was the kind of people that came in, because that's fascinating. When God, I could talk a long time about this, but it's fascinating the type of people that would come in at that time, because it was very restrictive and illegal to a certain extent, you
Okay.
know. So this is before Thatcher, when she was like, you know, don't get me started on her. But so it was just the kind of people that came in, and you kind of guess, what do they wonder what they do for a living, and all. I just loved all that mystery. But yeah, that's kind of urban legend myth that is quite a little delightful side bar to my life.
So next question is, where is the most metal place in the Black Country? I'd say Blackheath.
Oh, Blackheath. Um, well, we we've always pushed the West Midlands and the Black Country as the heart and home of heavy metal. I have some friends that work really hard to push that kind of preservation for the tradition of British heavy metal. But my hometown of Walsall it's very heavy metal in terms of when I go for a walk around town. It's a tough place, It's
Mm.
hardworking people, it's loving people that are very self-determined and will be quite blunt in their kind of matter-of-fact response to whatever it might be. But I love Walsall for that, and Bilston and Tipton and Wednesbury and West Bromwich and Wolverhampton and Willenhall. It's just a whole kaleidoscope. So you can't really pin it down to one place. If you put your finger on Birmingham, that's a good place to start, because you get all of these things, spiking up from the city itself. But it's a multi-dimensional place. You just have to say the Black Country as a whole is the home and heart of British heavy metal.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. And to kind of go on that theme of where it all started, next question is, who's your favourite new wave of British heavy metal artist, and who these days is carrying on that legacy? Other
In
than,
new wave, I wouldn't
sorry,
really, I wouldn't.
new wave of British heavy metal.
Oh, well, I think I've just mentioned a couple.
Svalbard,
Malevolence and Svalbard.
Malevolence.
Um, yeah, there's probably a lot more, but it's thriving. The British metal scene is thriving, and that's a joy, to know that there's still this love for this kind of music that we invented. We Brits invented heavy metal, which is now like a worldwide dominating uh, style of music. Um, but there's a couple I keep referencing them. Sleep Token as well. I love Sleep Token.
Yeah, they've got like the whole theatrical side as well, which is really powerful, isn't it? In rock, I think.
And I think that just adds another dimension. It's what I love about Priest. Priest has always, from day one, I've always felt that if you can, it's important to leave your fans with a real strong metal memory that they can take home, whether it's the bike, whether it's laser, smoke, fire, whatever it might be. The presentation, the theatre of the show, um, it's part of who we are. Priest have been doing it forever. Maiden's been doing it forever. You have to be very careful. Otherwise, it turns into he's behind you. It's a very, very fine line between it being
it is.
brilliant or a heavy metal panto. You've got to be very careful.
And then, well, this question was actually a few down the list, but I'm going to ask it now because it's kind of in the same theme. But someone's asking, what triggered the massive image change between Rock-a-Roller and Sad Wings of Destiny, from flared sleeves and hippie gear to the studs and leather that have defined the band ever since?
Well, we were finding our way. We were a new young band, and I think it's the same for most new young bands. You might start with trying to emulate and being inspired and influenced somewhat by the people that you admire in the music scene at the time. And of course, there really wasn't anybody for Priest because metal was in its infancy. You look at
Mm.
the early Sabbath stuff; those guys were all in loom pants and you know uh, that type of hippie-esque type of thing. Because again, that's what I love about this journey. This the metal scene, the metal industry came off the back of all that kind of uh, late 60s revolution and turmoil in culture, in music, in fashion. You know, Britain had its eye on Haight Ashbury and things happening in America. We had our own thing that had just gone through with the Beatles and the Tremolos and all of these other bands, and suddenly you were getting bands like Bloodwind Pig and the Groundhogs and the Edgar Broughton band and just a ton of bands, and suddenly it was getting heavier and heavier and heavier and stronger. And then suddenly this heavy metal scene began, and the music was so definitive, and we just didn't have a look that matched the sound. So
Yeah,
we experimented, and we came across the simple things like a bit of black leather jacket or whatever. And then you emulate it with a little bit of, rings and studs and spikes that you could only get in S&M shops in London at the time. And then it just exploded. It just exploded, and then Priest became like a figurehead for if you sound like heavy metal, this is how you need to look like heavy metal.
sure, yeah. So someone said it was a very different world back in 1998 when you took the unprecedented for a high-profile metal singer move of coming out as gay. At the time, did you feel particularly courageous, either in a personal capacity or in terms of it being a possibly terminal career move? And how have your feelings about that decision changed since that time?
This is another thing I could talk about. The heavy metal cows come home.
Yeah,
Just to quickly try and nail it down. I always use as the first point of reference the fact that the day I made that announcement at MTV New York, it was completely on premeditated. It was like it wasn't like today I'm going to come out. It was just a very pure conscious stream of banter like I'm having with you. And it was only after you know, released myself from my heavy fucking metal prison um, that I realised, oh well, let's see what's going to happen now. I had no idea that it was going to go around the world like crazy for a few days. I was away from Priest at the time,
yeah, I was
and
about that.
So, you know, what he did do, apart from any gay person that has the right time in their life to step forward and let their let their let their identity be what it is, without any clutter, without any interference, without any, oh, I can't say this because it's going to offend you, or I can't say this because blah blah blah. Once you get that out of the way, it's just unbelievable. The elation, you're floating, you know, because
Yeah,
firstly, you set yourself free. Secondly, all the ammunition that was back then, all the innuendo, all the insinuations, they evaporate
yeah,
because he's the gay guy, he's the gay metal singer for Priest. What can you throw at him now? Nothing. You know, there was there was very little backlash. I was really surprised and thrilled by the acceptance that was given to me. And the irony is like, well, look what he looked like. He must be gay. What? So going on stage in leather and whips and chains and handcuffs, that's the definition of a gay man. I don't think so, but that's just the way people were thinking then, you know. So it was difficult at that time. I reference it in my book, in Confess, where I talk about. By the way, do you know Ian Gittins? He works for the Guardian occasionally. Um, he
not
wrote the book
actually,
with
no.
me.
So
Brilliant.
what's the first name? Sorry.
Ian Gittins. Ian Gittins.
Oh,
Um, do a Google. Do a Google.
I know the
Anyway,
name. I know the name.
yeah,
I've not spoken to him before.
do a Google. But anyway, the world is a much better place now, thank God. Back then,
Yes.
it was. I mean, we've still got homophobia. We've still got, you know, racism. We've still got all these stupid, stupid parts of humanity that just drive me nuts, like them drive everybody nuts. And you really got to face it head on. You can't push it under the car because that's when danger starts. You know. Um, Big danger. But anyway, lost my thread now. Yeah. Um, Proud and loud. That's me.
No, that's a great answer, and it's nice to hear that it was organic as well, and it just came out naturally, and it wasn't something that you kind of thought about too much. I mean, I suppose you thought about the topic a lot, but not the actual coming out part. So that's no, it's nice to hear.
But what I did say, Chris, just to wrap this part up, was that if I hadn't have come out when I did, which was on the back of the Two project that I did with Trent Reznor and
Yes.
John Larry, John Five, the chances are, I don't know, could be complete speculation, but I think if I hadn't have come out and then I'd have gone back into Priest, I don't know if I'd have. I think I might have kind of still stayed hidden because I
Yeah.
love this band so much. I protect this band with every fibre of my being. I'm so super protective of every element of Priest, you know. But anyway, that's just a side thing. Yeah,
Um,
just
yeah.
kids, come out wherever you are.
Yeah. So we've still got quite a few questions to get through. I know we've got 10 minutes, but I'll try and get some of the better ones. I mean, they're all good questions, but so someone asked, who was the best band you've shared a stage with, and why? And why was it Baby Metal?
And why was it baby metal?
Yeah,
Well, I love Japan. I love Japanese culture. I love the Western side of their culture, and I love the way that they meshed their the embrace of who they are as Japanese people.
yeah,
Um, they're very good at taking ideas and really expanding on them and presenting them in their own way. And I think they're a great band. I know the girls, Sue Metal's a friend of mine. They are real. It's not some fabricated thing. They genuinely love making the metal that they make. We've done some shows with them, and I'm on the side watching them. It's fantastic. They work so hard, you know, especially with the choreography, and the band is brilliant. They're all great players. But there's been
talented.
so
Yeah.
many. There's been so many. You know, one of my all-time highlights for this band was opening up for Led Zeppelin, Day at the Green, in California, in San Francisco. And for me, as a youngish musician in my early 20s, you know, I couldn't believe that we were opening up for this legendary band at that time.
No, that's a great answer. And so, next question is, Is it frustrating that given your legacy with Judas Priest, people tend to overlook your solo and side projects?
No, because Priest leads me. Priest really completes me as a musician.
Yeah.
This is all I ever wanted in life, to be in this band, Judas Priest. I've been here for 50 years, pretty much, and I get everything that I need and love out of this band as a musician. Um, the solo adventures are just, you know, they're important. They're valuable to me as any solo adventures are from any established band. You know, people go off and have a bang elsewhere. I think it's important because you're able to really, as I did, you're able to really figure out what is the most important part of who you are as a musician. And Priest is that for me.
Someone's asked as well, you've suggested Trent Reznor came to produce your 2 album Voyeurs after you knocked on his door in New Orleans. Are you similarly accommodating when strangers knock on your door? Is the metaphorical door open for any future Reznor collaborations?
Well, first of all, I think it's important that you never say never. Like I said,
With the door,
earlier,
the door.
try everything, see what's what, and then you can let it go. If it doesn't happen, you can just let it go, and you say, "Well, we had a go, whatever." But yeah, I mean, I think that's what we do. That's what we do in music. We're always there to kind of give some insight and some wisdom, if that's the right word. When you've been doing this as long as I have, you know the insides and the outsides of metal and rock. Yeah, be open, be kind, be open to passing on your experiences, and this thing we have in metal about passing on the metal flame or whatever. It's a very real thing. This whole heavy metal world is just a beautiful collection of people from all over the planet that have this great love affair, not only of metal but of each other, because of how we represent this music and how much we are bonded to each other as people.
No, that's a great answer. Cheers, Rob. And someone's asked about British Steel. Did you expect British Steel to go on to effectively be an essential album in the pantheon of British rock? And how do you look back on the making of that album?
You never expect these things because they're out of your control. That's what I love about music. When bands make music, initially you're making it because you're having so much good times being musicians, making songs, making records, and then really it's your fans. I'll never stop saying that without your fans you can't get anywhere. So there's all that wrapped up into this answer, and the fact that British Steel was a pretty remarkable record because we went in with Tom Allen, who produced us for the first time. We had a bunch of songs written, but a lot of them were written in that house that used to belong to John Lennon. And it's just about where you are as musicians in your creative chemistry and ability. You never really know what's going to happen. I love that. You used a word a little bit a while ago about organic. That British Steel is about as organic as it can be because it's such an uncluttered, simple record. It's just very, very direct. It's almost as though the band's playing live in the living room, and that was down to Tom's prowess. But the actual songs, Living After Midnight, Breaking the Law, The Rage, Rapid Fire, Metal Gods, they've just become, collectively, they're wrapped into this album called British Steel, which has become such a definitive part of the heavy metal music. And
Yeah.
you never have no idea that that's going to happen. And I'm pleased it's that one. If there are any others, that's also cool. But that one definitely gets looked at quite a bit for what we're talking about.
Yeah. This next question as well, I don't know if we're going to have enough time for you to. I mean, well, you might have a very quick answer, you might not. But someone's asked, of all the songs you've written, which one do you like the most, and what inspired it?
Well, it's Victim of Changes, and
Wow.
that comes Sad Wings of Destiny album. And I've always referenced that song just because it's got all the element. I've used elements as a word today, word du jour, elements It's got the way the dual guitars come in, because we were the first ever dual guitar heavy metal band, and that's become synonymous of this band, even on the new album. So you got the dual guitars coming in, you got this bludgeoning riff, you got the singer going off, you know, you've got this very unusual framework of an arrangement. You've got the down part, the mid-light bridge part, where it goes very quiet, floaty, and then it goes up into this searing, blistering Glenn Tipton lead break, full of blues and metal, and then it ends with a bang and a scream at the end. So all of that's going on in this one song, and it's a beautiful song. People say to me, you know, if there's one song in metal that you could suggest to listen to just to get into the feels and the vibes of metal, I always say Victim of Change is from Southern of Destiny.
No, that's a great answer. A bit of an agony and question. It's kind of like
That's all right.
my what's a funny one. My dear wife tells me I should wear my heavy metal t-shirts more often, but I like to save them for special occasions to stop them wearing out too quickly. Who's right in this case?
I might be gay, but the wife is always right.
Well, I feel like the quality, like them band shirts, I think they're a bit better these days, like the black ones. I mean, they used to just
Do
fade
you
after one
know?
watch, didn't they? So
I just tried on some new Priest merch while I was in rehearsals the other day, and it's absolutely brilliant. When band, because band merch wasn't always a thing, you know. It took a while for that to become established, and now it's part. Every fan wants a shirt from every tour or every album. But when they first came out, it was like wearing a piece of, you know, sackcloth, some kind of medieval. Here's a here's the sack. We just brought the spuds in, and let's paint a shield on it. And
yeah.
there's a Judas Priest T-shirt with some holes cut out. They were absolutely horrific. And the first thing they did when you washed them was they shrunk. They shrunk 3 sizes. You know, so if you're a big bloke like I am, forget it. And then the print would start peeling off. You know, they've become so sophisticated now, and they're really well made, as they should be, because they're not cheap. So yeah, there you go. Metal merch.
I've got a couple left. I mean, we've got time for I think one more. I mean, this could be a good one to finish on. But someone's asked, "Are you aware of the enormous inspiration that you and Priest have been over the years? And if so, can you remember when you realised?"
Yeah, I think you never really are aware of that. It just happens out of your orbit. Um,
Kind of like with the British
I
Steel.
tell you I tell you what's nice is when you know people start offering you gongs, best of this and best of that, and it just makes you feel. It makes you feel good, you know. It makes you feel as though you've done something, done something worthwhile, because how many people have said you're not going to be in a metal band, you're going to go and work at that steel factory, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you know, do you know what I'm saying? As far as, oh, you want to be in a band, whatever. Um, and I think there's still that kind of negative pushback today for whatever reasons. But so when you get to this place again, it's love, man. It's absolute love. This band has got so much love from millions of people all over the world, and just to be recognised for that is more than enough, you know. So when you talk about inspiration and influence, again, you're passing it up, you're passing it on, because all those people that inspired and influenced Priest are as important then as the place that we're at now.
You know, I interviewed Bill Ward a couple of years ago, and I had such a
I
brilliant
love Bill. He's
such a
great.
I had such a brilliant
He's great.
conversation with him, and I think the same as you guys, the humble beginnings you had. I think those beginnings stay with you, and no matter how famous or successful you get, you're still that person who had to scrape for everything, and you never let things, you know, you never start believing your own bullshit too much. I think I dare say. So you always got,
It's a Yeah, it's an
you know,
absolute nightmare, Chris. If you go in that direction, that's when the trouble starts. And there's nobody in this band. We're all as grounded as we ever were.
yeah,
You know, me and Ian are like the so-called founding members. We haven't changed a bit.
yeah, that's good to
Neither has Scott, our drummer from America. He hasn't changed. Richie, got Andy with us now when Glenn's not with us. Um, But I would stomp all over that. If ever that raised its face in Priest, it would have been stomped down right away because there's no room for. I'm not getting in the limo. It's 2 degrees too warm. There's no room for that. You know. Firstly, it's absolutely stupid, and then again, who are you really? You're a musician. You're a musician. You know, I love music. Music is a very important part of who we are, but it's not a cure for cancer. You know. Or although it can get you through things like that. But in terms of how important it is, you have to know where to get the right, dimension and theories about what you're doing for a living. I'm a singer. I'm a singer in a heavy metal band, and that's it for me, plain and simple.
Awesome. I mean, just one question for me as well, just because I'm interested. How much of the new material are you going to play on this tour? Is it going to be quite? Because I mean, I'm aware that I don't think you've toured Firepower in this country either.
We haven't. It's been a nightmare. God, it's been a nightmare these last few days trying to put the set list together. We've got a good set list.
That's a good problem to have, though, isn't it? I think
It
at the same
is. It
time.
is. It is because your label's like push the album, push the album, push the album. And if I go and see my favourite band and they've got a new record out, yeah, I'll hear a song. But I just want the other stuff. I want the stuff that's in my life. I want Breaking the Law. I want Living After Midnight. I want Painkiller. I want Electric Eye. I want Screaming for Vengeance. I want Another Thing Coming. I want Metal Gods. I'm rattling off the songs that we'll be doing on this tour.
Mm.
But I think it's very important for us as a band to maintain relevant. You've got to be relevant. You've got to be You've got to be relevant. You know, you've got to be able to go onto that stage and say, the reason we're here still now is obviously because of all the music and the albums that we've accrued in the past. But the reason we're here is because we have a brand new album, and that's what this band's been doing for 50 years. We've been touring, supporting our latest music. This is what this band can do now in 2024. It's mad. It's absolutely mad. You know, I mean, again, rock and roll 50 years ago. I can remember vividly going to that studio for the first day to lay down those early songs. And we toured with that album to say, this is Judas Priest now, 1974. Hello, this is Judas Priest now, 2024. So there will be some new material. But what you do is once your record's out, once everybody's digested it and getting into it, that's when you put a bit more of the new material into the set. It's a bit, but it's a it's a nice challenge. We get there in the end. We changed the running list about 10 times yesterday just to get it right, because it's all about the opening salvo, the trip through the rest of it, and then going out on the bang. It's very, very difficult to get a set list that really is thrilling, entertaining, exciting, full of information, full of adventure, and doing your best to leave people with the feeling that they've seen, and heard the best of their band. But there's always somebody that goes, oh, they didn't play, they didn't play that fourth track from that fifth album, that's whatever. You do what you can, but this is going to be a great tour and great new album, and going to be wonderful.
Yeah, I'm Yorkshire based. I live in Leeds. The last time I saw you guys, I think, was with I think you were touring with Megadeth, and you played in Sheffield.
Yes, we did. We did. And that's
sometime. I think it's on the Nostradamus tour. Which is my first or second time seeing Judas Priest. But yeah, I'm gonna try and get to the Leeds day. I can't believe it's next week. It's like 10 days away, isn't it? So
don't say that to me, because my head's going to explode. I can't believe it, because we've still got so much stuff to do. Tomorrow we're going down to London to do a Q&A thing with Ed Gamble as a host.
Okay.
And then we come back up, and then I've got 2 more days of intense talking to our friends like yourself. And then we're up to Wakefield for rehearsals at a brilliant facility for 3 days. Yeah, Shaky Wakefield. Up there for 3 days. Day off Sunday, Metal Blessings. And then we're off. The world tour starting in Bonnie, Scotland, in Glasgow, where we used to hang out with the Big Yin at the Glasgow Apollo, you know. So it's just life is just a joy at this point. I tell you, man.
Very
Every day is a blessing. Every day is a metal blessing.
awesome. Well, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. And like I say, hopefully I can get to your show next week. But
Please, yeah.
yeah, thanks so much, Rob, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, mate. I'm off to Germany now.
Oh, wow.
Okay. No, I
Enjoy.
mean Zoom, not a
Oh shit, I
plane.
didn't know. Yeah, because I'm
I'm
going to say you're
zooming to
for London
Germany.
tomorrow. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing the UK, Germany, Austria, Italy in the next hour and a half. It's a life.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thanks so much for your time as well, and I'll hopefully I'll get this piece over to your manager so you can see next week when it goes out. But yeah,
Thank you. Any show, please just drop Jane an email or the label, and please come and bang your head.
I will indeed. Yeah.
All right,
Cheers.
mate.
Thanks, Rob.
See you later.
All the
Okay,
best,
bye.
mate. Bye.
Bye.